Romania, a deep dive into its economic dynamics at the heart of Europe. A Trade Insight by Daniel Abad. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. First, thank you for being here today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Daniel Abad. I am a student of international trade in Argentina and currently working as a supply chain assistant at DHL. Today, I'm going to give you a deep look at Romania's economy. Why is this topic important? Because Romania represents a dynamic and evolving market in the European Union. From my experience in logistics, I find it fascinating how countries like Romania are integrating into global supply chains. By the end of this talk, you'll be familiar with its main industries, trade profile, and economic characteristics. The purpose of this presentation is to give you a complete overview of Romania's economy. We are going to look at its industries, added value, production factors, economic sectors, and trade relations. I have divided the talk into 6 parts. Those are Romania's general overview, main industries, added value and production factors, economic sectors, international trade, and main trading partners, and final conclusions. This will take around 10 to 12 minutes. Don't worry about taking notes because I can mail the slides to anyone who wants them. Let's start with a brief overview of Romania. Located in Eastern Europe, Romania shares border with 5 countries and has access to the Black Sea, making it a key logistic link between Europe and Asia. It covers 238,000 square kilometers and has a population of about 19 million. Since joining the European Union in 2007 and more recently the Schengen area in 2024, Romania has improved its trade and mobility across Europe. Although its GDP per capita is below the EU average, Romania has maintained a strong growth over 4% in the past decade. It operates a market economy based on industry, services, and foreign investment. Despite some challenges like labor shortage and regional inequality, Romania remains attractive for investors due to its location, low cost, and growing digital infrastructure. Now, let's look at Romania's key industries. The service sector leads the economy, contributing around 57% of the GDP, nearly employing half of the population. And IT and telecommunication are especially strong, making Romania a major hub for software and development in Eastern Europe. The automotive industry is also crucial. It makes up over 50% of GDP and 27% of export, with companies like Dacia and Ford producing both vehicles and parts. Now, agriculture still plays a role, especially in crops like cereals and sunflower, employing 21% of the workforce despite contributing almost 5% of the GDP. Other important industries include oil and gas, metalworking, chemicals, and electronics, particularly in industrial cities like Cluj, Napoca, and Timisoara. Now, let's look at how Romania has value and what resources support its economy. In 2023, industry contributed over 93 billion US dollars or 70% of GDP. The country is moving from traditional manufacturing to high-tech exports and services. It has a skilled and affordable labor force, especially in IT and engineering, along with valuable natural resources like oil, gas, and fertile land. Capital investment, mainly from the European Union, continues to support development, while technology grows through innovation and international investment. Still, Romania faces challenges like workforce aging and gaps between education and market needs. Let's now take a look at this slide that shows the economic sectors. At number one, we can find the services, part of the tertiary sector, that contribute about 58 to 60% of the GDP. And number two, we can find manufacturing and industry, part of the secondary sector, around 28% of the GDP, employing roughly 23 to 24% of the workforce. And number three, part of the primary sector, it contributes 4.3 to 4.5% of the GDP with about 21 of the workforce. And number four, construction 5 to 6% of the GDP, and 5, information and communication technology, ICT, makes up around 6.2% of the GDP and is one of the fastest growing services subsectors. Romania operates under a mixed market economy, which means that while most production and pricing decisions are made by private businesses, the government still plays a regulatory and strategic role, especially in infrastructure, energy, and education. The systems allow both market efficiency and social balance. Let's now talk about Romania's international trade. In 2023, Romania exported around 100.6 billion US dollars in goods. However, it imported around 131.9 billion US dollars, which means the country had a trade deficit that year. What does Romania export? Mostly machinery and transport equipment, especially cars and auto parts. It also exports industrial goods, food products, and electronic components. On the import side, Romania buys a lot of machines, chemical products, fuels like petroleum, and medicines. This trade structure shows Romania's strong industrial base, but also it depends over energy and advanced technologies from abroad. Let's now see the trading partners. Who does Romania trade with? The European Union is its main trade partner with 72.6% of exports and 73.3% of imports in 2023. The rest of the world represents roughly 27% of exports and imports. In details, we can find Turkey with 3.3% of exports and 5.2% of imports. Now we can find China, United Kingdom, and the United States of America. Within the European Union, the main or the top partner are Germany, Hungary, and France. Now that we have made our run through Romania's economy, this brings me to the end. But let's quickly go over a few key points. First, Romania is growing fast, especially in IT and automotive. Two, it has a strong EU ties and geography importance. And three, is facing challenges but also opportunities for trade and investment. And as someone working at DHL, I believe Romania's production in global supply chains will continue to grow. And remember my opening question, is Romania an overlooked player? I hope today's talk show his real potential. Thank you very much for your attention. Are there any questions? If there are, I'll be happy to answer them now. If not, feel free to email me or connect through LinkedIn. Oh, I see that we have actually three questions. Let's see. First from Miss Jamileta Dino. Why did you choose Romania for your project? Good question. I would say that I've always been fascinated by Romania's natural landscapes, natural resources, cultural richness, but also from a trade perspective, is a growing European Union market with a strategy importance in logistics. We connect perfectly with my studies and job at DHL. Second question from maybe Tadino. What is Romania's biggest economic challenge right now? I'd say the mismatch between education and labor market needs, especially in rural areas and agriculture. And the trick question from Miss Taylor Swift. Can your role at DHL be related to Romania's economy? Absolutely. I work in supply chain, and Romania is becoming a key logistic hub in Europe. Why I study and I do at DHL helps me better understand these real world trends. Thank you for your questions. Ahora, sobre mi reflexión final, me gustaría empezar con que al principio y a lo largo de la materia, de la cursada, voy a adquirir muchos nuevos conocimientos, nuevas formas de estudio y visualizar cómo puede ayudarme el inglés en la carrera y en el paso profesional que abarca con ella. Aprender a usar nuevos métodos de estudio, eh, quitarme un poco el miedo a hablar y expresarme de mejor manera. Mucho nuevo vocabulario, a pesar de que sea inglés, realmente fue un inglés técnico muy bien fomentado y formulado y estoy muy entusiasmado por lo que se viene en el camino. En algún momento fue difícil, por suerte, dentro de todo, diría que para mí personalmente, más que difícil, fue lleno de obstáculos, pero siempre con las herramientas para solucionarlo y estoy agradecido por eso. Así que muchas gracias por todos los conocimientos dados a la profesora Karen de Francesco, compañeros también por darme la ayuda y como estudiamos entre nosotros nos ayudamos y como todo lo que hicimos, lo que he hecho, lo leído, lo fomentado, lo trabajado, me ayudó a la cursada, no solo aprender, sino a disfrutarla. Muchas gracias. Daniela va.